Money 105.5 with Glenn Spillman and Charlton Curry. This is Epic Sports Radio.
Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton Curry with Glenn Spillman, Stacey Harris, and Big C. We're here with Epic Sports Radio every Wednesday at 4 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we are also worldwide.
Yes, we are. You know what? Been checking the analytics. We've got people in France, Saudi Arabia, Japan, Germany, of course, here all over the U.S., Canada. You know, it's great to, all these listeners. I mean, they're talking about the show. They're tweeting me. They're Facebooking me. So we are officially worldwide.
That's amazing.
Yeah, you know what? Before we get started, I just want to give a quick shout out to a couple of our new sponsors. We got Mattress by Appointment, Chuck Palvick. I want to thank him. Today is one of our sponsors, Kit Gamble with Gamble Insurance. You can get a hold of him at 562-477-5095. It's his birthday today. Happy birthday, Kit. Of course, Rescue Water, X-Life Power Boards, and Bun Sports Pub and Grub. And just something a little, we're reaching out to the homeless this year. And you can go on our website, epicnewsports.com. Go down to the bottom. There's buttons there that you could buy supplies for the homeless. There's also a holiday blessings button there that explains exactly what we're doing. We're going to go out a couple days before Christmas. Anyone that wants to go with us, we're going to go feed the homeless and give them all the things that you guys have so generously blessed us with.
That is absolutely wonderful. So thank you for mentioning that, Glenn. And also I want to mention, as we get into the NFL, which is a great time of year, this program is brought to you partially by Trinoc Investments Corporation, providing commercial and residential project allocation and private funding of up to $500 million since 2008. For more information, contact Charlton Curry, 916-896-5757. And speaking of funding, Glenn, I know that the NFL is always big, and Big C, we talk about what happens with officiating and all the great things happening in the league this year. But what are your thoughts on the NFL, and what are you paying attention to right now?
Paying attention to is that the Commissioner, Roger Goodell, finally showed some stones this week and removed an officiating crew. He reprimanded them for the game last week in San Francisco against Arizona on some blown calls. So he removed them from their assignment this week, which is a great thing for the NFL, that now the officials have to be held accountable.
It's about time. It's about time.
Well, Big C, we talked about that also, because when players have issues, you need leadership. Goodell, $44 million of your salary. We know he's not perfect, but he is trying to make things better. And when we get into the NFL, we know we had some great games over the past week. And I want everyone to pay attention to Brett Favre. We talked about him and Aaron Rodgers, Glenn.
Yeah, drama.
And there's a great television program, I believe it's aired by the NFL Network. They'll talk about Brett Favre and then his retirement. Big C, again, your thoughts on Favre over 20 years playing in the league?
Brett Favre was one of the great ambassadors for the NFL. You think about his tenure with the Green Bay Packers. He was originally drafted in the second round by the Atlanta Falcons, who gave up on him and traded him to Green Bay. And, he set multitudes of NFL records. He won Super Bowls, made a couple of appearances in Super Bowls, set passing and touchdown records prior to his retirement. He ended his career with the Minnesota Vikings, but I think he was just, on the field, he was a consummate professional.
Yes.
He didn't miss games. He didn't complain about injuries. He went out there and did what he was paid to do on a weekly basis. He performed. He left his heart and soul out on the turf at Lambeau Field every weekend.
What I liked about him is he played hurt. He didn't complain. He didn't take a day off or anything. He played hurt. He played well, and he's a tough guy, and I like that about him.
Glenn, when you look at the guys who played around him, he made players around him better. I mean, we all remember the late, great Reggie White, who Green Bay brought in on defense. But there was a lot of middle-of-the-road players when Favre played, that these players, their game stepped up to his level on game day.
Yeah.
Well, a great thing, too, about that game for every fan and every football fan, to see Bart Starr, the way he embraced Brett Favre. And Bart Starr doesn't have the best of health now, but he still was able to do that. And to have Bart Starr, Aaron Rodgers, and I just appreciate the fact that he meant so much to football, played in the Iron Bowl game where there was freezing, and to see him and the organization, the Packers organization, recognized Bart Starr, Glenn.
Yeah, that was wonderful to see.
That was
Well,
wonderful,
you
Big
think
C.
about it, Bart Starr won the first 2 Super Bowls in the NFL. Before it became the Lombardi Trophy, it was a World Championship.
Yes.
And Brett Favre won back-to-back games against the Kansas City Chiefs and Oakland Raiders to start off the Super Bowl era.
Yeah, it was nice to see, Bart Starr, Super Bowl champ, Brett Favre, Super Bowl champ, Aaron Rodgers, Super Bowl champ. All 3 of those guys together that night. Unfortunately, they lost the game, but, it was a great homecoming.
Now, speaking of quarterbacks, Big C, I know that Glenn was talking about the Browns starting Austin Davis over Johnny Manziel. And ironically, if you're a fan of NFL football, if you look at how great Bart Starr was, and Brett Favre, and even Aaron Rodgers to that extent. And here's a kid in Johnny Manziel, out of Texas A&M, Heisman Trophy, has everything a person could want, Glenn.
Yeah.
And I know he's having some personal issues off the field, but here's an organization that put a lot of money into him so he could be like a Bart Starr, so he could be like a Brett Favre, or even an Aaron Rodgers. As a former player, what is going on with him that he is in a pot of gold? Right now he's in the land of milk and honey, but he doesn't see it.
As a person, Johnny Manziel was never poor. I think that's his biggest problem that the general public doesn't understand. His parents are millionaires.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he never had a want for anything. So his lifestyle is what he has always lived, whether it was in high school, whether it was in college at A&M, which he only spent 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
People don't recall that he and Mariota were recruited to Oregon at the same time, and Manziel left because of Mariota being there and ended up at A&M. So he has always had a lavish lifestyle that a lot of college kids were not privy to.
Right.
What he does off the field, if it's not detrimental to his performance, I think he's being policed and judged too hard. What he is doing is that what half the NFL players are doing. They're enjoying themselves off of the field.
Yes.
It just so happened he's Johnny Manziel, and everybody wants to take
Spotlight,
a selfie in this multimedia age with him.
Yeah.
You know what? If you're in Austin, you know what? I lived in Austin for 5 years. And if he wants to go there, hang out with his friends, and have a couple of, he didn't get in trouble. He didn't get arrested. He didn't get in a fight. He partied. He had fun. Didn't do anything illegal.
Right.
But he's getting punished for that, and I don't agree with that.
Well, I have to say this. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Big C. I have to say this. I mean, definitely, thus far, he's proven not to be a leader. But, the world is already ready to strip the first-round draft pick of the title, Johnny Football, and change it to Johnny Champagne. We understand that the NFL, yes, it is a business. It is not about loyalty anymore. But what about honesty? How do you ask your players to lie for you? I mean, I think that management, did they make a good decision? Yes. I mean, sitting him out, maybe you'll learn your lesson this time. It reminds me of the old James Caan movie,
he shouldn't
The
have
Program.
lied. I agree with that.
He shouldn't have lied.
But
I agree
I have to
with
look
it.
at it as being a double standard. If you look at Jaleel Okafor, number 1 draft pick of the Philadelphia 76ers, who have not won a game in, I think, 2 or 3 years.
About 3.
He got into a fight last week outside a bar, outside a nightclub. The week before that, he had a gun pulled on him in another altercation in Milwaukee.
True.
The NBA and the NFL have different standards as far as how they police their players. Now, if Johnny Manziel, if he had gotten into a fight, I could understand him being suspended. If he had been in a situation where a gun is being brandished, I could understand it. But right now, I'm not respecting the decision of the Cleveland Browns. That you're saying that there's a no alcohol policy on your team, or is there no alcohol policy on Johnny Manziel? That's a little discriminatory right there.
Very much.
I think you're very right, because there are things that go on. In reality, people do what's legal to do, and sometimes in the privacy of their own homes, they do whatever they want to do. But if you're the face of an organization, you are going to get a lot of scrutiny. Right. And then speaking of the face of an organization, we talk about officiating, and Glenn, you brought it up, Gronkowski for the Patriots being targeted, Big C, and then having no calls go against them. And it's a lot like you talked earlier, Glenn, about Shaquille O'Neal.
Exactly,
You can foul Shaquille O'Neal, Big C, but because he's such an imposing presence, it was not considered a foul. So what do you think about Gronkowski? He's got his knee injured, going to miss maybe 1 game. But what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that he has people get away with things because he is such a physical player?
He is being targeted. I mean, Gronkowski is a great player. He's a very physical. He's a beast out on the field.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you look at the situation with him, defensive backs are fearful of him. And I look at the NFL rule of targeting, a defenseless player. When Ward went after his knee the other night in that football game in the snow in Denver, that was targeting. He specifically went after his knee. He could have grabbed him around the waist, but he targeted his knee. If you recall, 3 years ago, the same situation happened to him, and I believe it was Ward also in Cleveland when he took out his knee. Same player, same type of incident, and the league has not stepped in and done anything about it, protecting a defenseless player. And he was defenseless in that situation. And I think he's being targeted. We go back to the Spygate. We go back to the Deflategate. The NFL is doing whatever they can to try to reprimand the New England Patriots because they couldn't get Tom Brady, so they're going to go after everybody else.
Right, yeah.
Right, yeah. I think they went from Spygate, Deflategate, now a little bit of Injurygate. So,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, they need to do a blanket, you know. They don't need to just target one thing. If you messed up, say you messed up, don't just keep trying to target somebody.
Exactly.
I mean, and let the guy like Gronk get hurt. I mean, it's different to hurt somebody, but it's another thing to injure somebody.
That's correct. Yep, I totally agree with that.
And you had the same guy do it over a 3-year span, which I think, the league should look at coming down on Ward for what he did to Gronk in this situation.
Yeah,
definitely.
And also shine a spotlight on him.
And also, speaking of that game, Big C, the Patriots and also the Broncos, you called it last week. Osweiler actually gave them a better chance of winning that game than Peyton, whether Peyton's injured or not, because he can get under center. And when he calls his plays, then play action makes sense, and it can hold the linebackers a little bit longer because he has that ability. What are your thoughts on his performance? And then the likelihood of the Broncos having to make a decision going forward, Glenn. Big C, based on that performance, what would you say to Peyton? What would you say to the Broncos organization as to who should be their leader going forward?
Well, I think it's going to be another 2 weeks before the Broncos make a decision on Peyton Manning. When you look at that performance, as everybody saw it on television, especially when you saw the overhead views of the game.
Yes.
By him being under center with his play fakes, and I mean, he really has a long extension. He reminds you of Peyton Manning when he was younger. But he also reminds me more of Don Strock. Don Strock was a backup to Bob Greasy in Miami, played one of the greatest playoff games in NFL history. He holds the linebackers, and if you look at the openings underneath the secondary last week versus the Patriots, that was coming from the play fake, being able to get up under center, act like you're going to hand off the ball to the running backs. That's going to hold the linebackers a half a second. That's critical when you're trying to get back in a drop. And if you look at all the open receivers he had, and even on the game-winning run, you're critical that he may throw the ball in that situation, and that's what allowed them to run that sweep and get around the corner. The defensive backs don't get as deep in those situations.
Well, that's definitely true. And, Glenn, when you have someone that's mobile, then it always helps your offense. Defensively, Denver wins because their defense is so legit. And like we talked about earlier, will a team go undefeated? Well, right now we only have Carolina, and at the helm, again, a quarterback who gets controversy sometimes, Glenn. But we're going to talk about that more when we come back on the other side. More NFL football on Epic Sports Radio every Wednesday at 4 o'clock p.m. on Money 105.5. Half of the United States population follows sports in some form or fashion. Sports is a billion-dollar industry. If you're not advertising with a sports team, you are simply missing the boat. Boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. EpicNewsSports.com is your doorway to helping your customers follow sports. Whether it's pro, college, or prep sports, it is a great investment of your advertising dollar. With half of the country following sports, you can too by visiting EpicNewsSports.com. At Gamble Insurance Agency, we put the odds in your favor. We handle most or all of your insurance needs and act as your insurance advisor. We will put together a suitable buying strategy with your financial future in mind. We are an independent farmers agency. Call Kit Gamble for a free farmers-friendly review of your insurance policy at 530-772-5041. That is 530-772-5041.
Holiday mattress sale at Mattress by Appointment Sacramento. All mattresses are 80% off retail store prices. We buy directly from the factory and pass the savings on to you. I show them by appointment only to keep our overhead costs low, which saves you money. All inventory is brand new and sealed. I have pillow tops, gel foam, memory foam, plush, and Euro tops. Don't miss your opportunity to get the mattress you have been dreaming about. At these prices, they won't last long. $40 down takes home a mattress set. No credit needed. Call Chuck today at Mattress by Appointment Sacramento, 916-230-0113.
Money 105.5 with Epic Sports Radio.
Welcome back to the show. My name is Charlton Curry, along with Glenn Spillman, Big C, and Stacey Harris. We talk NFL football every Wednesday at 4 o'clock p.m., and we are actually worldwide. And speaking of worldwide, Glenn, in order to get advertising on a sports show, and we know that sports is so big around the world, especially in the United States where half the population watches the Super Bowl, in order to get advertising, contact Glenn.
Yeah, you know what? You can give me a call at 916-420-0697. We will take care of your advertising needs. We will custom made something just for you. Also, I just want to say that this next segment is brought to you by Buns Sports Pub and Grub. They are at 311 Judah Street in Roseville. I'll tell you what, man, during every Monday night football game, they are giving away a trip to Vegas. Not just once a month, every single Monday night, they're giving away a trip to Vegas. You'll enjoy 3 days, 2 nights at the nostalgic Tropicana. Get in the raffle there. Go check out. But, hey, you know what? If you tell them that you heard about it on Epic Sports Radio, they will give you $2 off domestic drafts, $2 off of well drinks, and $2 off of house wine.
Did you say Vegas?
I sure did, man.
Does anyone love going to Las Vegas?
What happens in Vegas, I hear stays in Vegas. That's what I hear, man.
That's what I hear also.
Yeah.
And speaking about
Vegas,
in theory, we know that too, Stacey. But Glenn, you were talking about Osweiler again, and you wanted to talk about some of the numbers that he had compared to Tom Brady.
Yeah, you know what? They were neck and neck. They both were 23 for 42. Brady had 10 more yards. He had 280. Osweiler had 270. Average, Brady was 6.7 yards. Osweiler was 6.4. Now, granted, Osweiler only had 1 TD. He also had an interception. Brady had 3 TDs, no interception. But you know what? Osweiler, he's more mobile. He's more agile. Yeah. He gets the job done, obviously. I'm with you, Stacey. I know this is your team, but they need to set Peyton out a couple more weeks. Because if they bring him back too early, I'm sorry he's going to get hurt again.
I'm with you on that. I definitely agree. You set Peyton out 2 more weeks, let him get a little healthy. And you know this, they've already clinched the division. I'll say that. You sit Peyton out, you let Osweiler take over right now. Yeah. At least you have a backup.
At least,
now, Big C, when you think about setting Peyton out, there comes a point in time. We talked about Brett Favre earlier and Aaron Rodgers earlier. There comes a point in time, Big C, where you have to replace someone. If that's a conversation that needs to be had, when will it be had? Will they bring Peyton back and have him lose a game or get injured again, like Romo in Dallas? Or do they say, you've done the best you can for our organization, we're going to go this direction, the younger direction? What are your thoughts, Big C?
Well, I look at it from this perspective that maybe Peyton should place a call to Kobe Bryant, and be realistic with himself.
I don't think Kobe would answer that call.
The Mamba has realized when I'm only shooting 32% from the floor, that my game is not there. When I'm missing baskets from the front and the back of the rim, but Peyton's legacy has already been laid in the NFL.
Yes.
Right now it's a mental thing with him more than anything else. But the organization has also recognized, if we keep him in this walking boot, have him going around, then there's no pressure on us as far as the timeline in bringing him back. If Osweiler struggles and has a real bad game, then there will be conversation about Peyton coming back. But if he wins his next 3 games, we may have seen the last of Peyton Manning.
Well, you think back to the greatest quarterback right now, or one of the greatest quarterbacks right now. And, of course, if you're in New England, you're going to say it's Tom Brady. But I remember, Glenn, Brady got his chance when Bledsoe was injured.
Exactly.
And he came in and he took over.
He sure did.
And he hasn't let go of the reins since. Big C, you think we're seeing something like that right now?
Well, look at this point here. You gave some numbers a moment ago, Glenn, about Osweiler versus Brady.
Mm-hmm.
if Brady had Oswald as receiving core, he'd have had 500 yards in that game.
Yeah.
Brady is working with Band-Aids and chewing gum right now as a receiving core.
And duct tape.
You can't name two of his receivers on his team. You can't even name two running backs.
Nope.
This is how good this individual is. His offensive line has had 21 different combinations this year. So when you speak about an organization, a coach, and a quarterback, these are the consummate professionals in New England. They'll go up against anything, and they don't complain when they have injuries. And we saw Gronk was lost.
Yeah.
So now somebody else has to step up. So now he's going to go in with a whole new receiving core this weekend.
Yeah, you know what? And speaking of that, with Philadelphia, they're still favored by some sports books by 13 points. The lowest is 9.5, but they're still favored by a lot of points against Philadelphia.
Well, they don't want to go on a two-game skid, Glenn. They're going to come out and play their hearts out this weekend.
Yeah, and it's at home too. I don't perceive them losing at home in Gillette Stadium.
Does Philadelphia have a quarterback yet?
Yeah.
It might be Kobe Bryant.
Exactly.
He throws a lot of air balls.
Let's look at Colin Kaepernick next year in Philadelphia. That may be a good landing spot for him.
That's definitely a way to get out of the pocket with a guy like Colin Kaepernick. As we go across to the West Coast, across the country, we know that the Oakland Raiders have to go back to Memphis.
The Raiders
just win, baby. And I know that the Raiders were on a downhill skid, but I'm very impressed with their quarterback in Derek Carr. Amari Cooper, there are times he's dropping too many passes, but he's probably a year away from being a first-team All-Pro. But then Michael Crabtree, he seems to become revitalized, Glenn.
Yeah.
So, Big C, there was some controversy in the Raiders, and again, we can always get on the officials. We can beat that horn. But they're playing Kansas City this week at the Coliseum. That's a big game for both teams. What are your thoughts on Oakland? They're chasing the wild card spot, but what are your thoughts on Oakland? Any progress you see with them going forward, Big C?
They're going to have to find some consistency, and that's what Kansas City has found right now. Kansas City has won their last 5 games. Alex Smith and Jeremy Maclin have found each other. Last year they struggled as a tandem. But Alex Smith right now is playing lights out. This is a quarterback that San Francisco gave up on 3 years ago, and he's gone to Kansas City. He's made the playoffs there. But the Raiders right now, when you talk about Derek Carr, I mean, he's had a marvelous season. He just hasn't had the consistency with his receivers. Everybody thought Amari Cooper would be a little better than what he is as a rookie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And his inconsistency has cost the team a couple games. It's not Alabama playing in the SEC.
Right.
You're playing in the NFL. There's good teams and good players every week.
Yeah, I will say this. He did go for 115 yards. He had a pretty decent game. But you know what? It's the word that you use, consistency.
Right.
And if you don't have consistency in the NFL, you're going to be forgotten about. You're going to be a byproduct. And you know what? I know there's growing pains, but you know what? They have to step it up.
And that is consistency has definitely plagued the Raiders over the years.
Yeah.
So I agree with you.
Glenn, when you go back to the NFL, what it means, not for long if you're inconsistent.
Hey, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Well, speaking of consistency, I know we look at the AFC North. The Cincinnati Bengals with Dalton, they're 9-2, and they're leading right now. They lead for the number 2 seed because of conference records. It's them in New England at this time. Consistency. We talk about Oakland trying to sneak into the playoffs, but if you get back to the top of the AFC, the Cincinnati Bengals and the New England Patriots, they're the top 2 dogs right now. What are your thoughts on Cincinnati and how they can win in the playoffs, because that's been their Achilles heels, Big C?
It's been their Achilles heel, but they haven't played this consistently throughout the seasons in the past 3 years. They've made the playoffs, but they've been a pretty dominant team as this season has gone on. They've had the 2 hiccups in their schedule, but their number 1 foe in their division has been the Steelers.
Yes.
And the Steelers are not going to be there this year, I don't think. They've lost Ben again, the concussion protocol.
There's too many injuries.
He may not play, and their backup last week just couldn't get anything done, Landry Jones. But, I like the Bengals' chances this year getting over the hump in the first round of the playoffs and winning a game.
Well, that would make Marvin Lewis happy and also the fans of Ohio. And we're going to talk more about the NFL and some of the top teams and how they jockey for a playoff position. And we'll take a break and come back. And again, you can listen to Epic Sports Radio every Wednesday at 4 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time worldwide on Money 105.5. Get life insurance in 3 easy steps. California license number 0180132. Number 1, no physical. Number 2, no blood test. Number 3, no medical exam. Qualify for $5,000 or more in final expense. Affordable rates. We cover the VA and seniors. Ask a senior life agent to contact you about retirement, annuities, and a life insurance policy. Call 916-896-5757. Protect the people you love. Call 916-896-5757.
X-Life Power Boards is revolutionizing the way you travel. Our boards are intelligent, innovative, and empowering. These boards feature Bluetooth speaker, 2 motors, Samsung long life battery. They are waterproof and dustproof, and they are faster than most models out there on the market. And you can buy a board for as low as $72 a month. So come join us at X-Life and get a board. Live free, ride free. XLPowerboards.com.
Half of the United States population follows sports in some form or fashion. Sports is a billion-dollar industry. If you're not advertising with a sports team, you are simply missing the boat. Boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. EpicNewsSports.com is your doorway to helping your customers follow sports. Whether it's pro, college, or prep sports, it is a great investment of your advertising dollar. With half of the country following sports, you can too by visiting EpicNewsSports.com.
Holiday mattress sale at Mattress by Appointment Sacramento. All mattresses are 80% off retail store prices. We buy directly from the factory and pass the savings on to you. I show them by appointment only to keep our overhead costs low, which saves you money. All inventory is brand new and sealed. I have pillow tops, gel foam, memory foam, plush, and Euro tops. Don't miss your opportunity to get the mattress you have been dreaming about. At these prices, they won't last long. $40 down takes home a mattress set. No credit needed. Call Chuck today at Mattress by Appointment Sacramento, 916-230-0113.
At Gamble Insurance Agency, we put the odds in your favor. We handle most or all of your insurance needs and act as your insurance advisor. We will put together a suitable buying strategy with your financial future in mind. We are an independent farmers agency. Call Kit Gamble for a free farmers-friendly review of your insurance policy at 530-772-5041. That is 530-772-5041.
Money 105.5 with Epic Sports Radio.
Welcome back to the show. My name is Charlton Curry with Epic Sports Radio, and we love talking about pro football and college football and all the major sports. We're even going to touch on Tiger Woods later. But if you're talking about advertising and you want to advertise on a sports program, there's no better way than to...
Yeah, you just give me a call at 916-420-0697. We will custom make you an advertise plan no matter what your budget is, high, low, in between, for advertisement. And also, I want to thank Bun Sports Pub and Grub. You know, you guys want to go there and check them out. Not just on Monday nights, but you know what? If you want to go to Vegas, you got a chance to win. Every Monday night, they're giving away a trip to Vegas. 3 days, 2 nights at the Tropicana. Go in there and tell them that you heard about it on Epic Sports Radio. You'll get a couple dollars off, your domestic drafts. And you know what? If you're coming at the end of the year, you need to get rid of some money, for tax purposes. We are doing holiday blessings. We're getting toys for tots. We're getting stuff for the homeless. So you could
get involved.
Get involved and give me a call and let us work for you.
And then, Stacey, I know you had a question and a comment you wanted to make. We were talking about NFL football before we get back to Big C. And we know the movie Concussion is coming out with Will Smith.
December 25th, Christmas Day.
Everyone go see that movie. You hear a lot of talk of Roger Goodell and some things that are really happening in the NFL, but you also had a question about Roethlisberger last week.
Well, yeah, I'm concerned about the injury, but here's the deal. Is it up to Roethlisberger to make the decision? Is he healthy or not? I mean, you reading ESPN quotes, and he's saying, yes, I'm ready to go. He's gone through all the preliminary testing, but here's the deal. The NFL has moved away from it being a player what am I trying to say here? A player
they're
decision.
making the decision. Yeah,
they're moving away from that. They're placing it on the doctors. It's no longer in the player's hands because the player is inevitably, I don't want to lose my spot. They're going to say, yep, thumbs up, I'm ready to go. But are they really ready to go?
Now, Big C, your thoughts on that? We know that Will Smith is making the movie. Everyone should go see it this holiday season. If you have kids playing football, or even if you play it yourself, it's something that you should see. Has a lot of acclaim. But Big C, talk about concussions. in a bit. And then who should make that decision? I don't think you should leave it up to the player because they don't know where they're punch drunk.
Well, the NFL really blew it 2 weeks ago with the Rams. Case Keenum, the backup quarterback, when he was injured, and everybody in America that was watching that game could see that he was concussed down on the field. He couldn't get up. His equilibrium was gone.
Yeah.
I, as a player, I suffered several concussions over my career. Back in those days, we took a little smelling salt under the nose and went back in.
Yes.
There was no concussion protocol. But there needs to be an independent consultant, not involved with the team, that comes in, that the NFL has a list of people that they're not involved, because all the teams have their own doctors.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about a long, life-sustaining injury. It's not like having a sprained ankle. Yeah. Whenever you get concussed, there's a few brain cells that just don't come back to normal.
Right.
Yep.
I think there was a movie, Glenn. It was North Dallas 40.
Yeah.
Remember that movie? Now we all.
That movie was as real.
It was so real.
Everything.
It was so real, Big C. And we know with a lot of NFL, we have a lot of athletes that listen to the program. They know there's certain things you have to do. If not, you lose your job.
Exactly. And you know what? And I've been in locker rooms, and I've heard this conversation before. I've heard a player tell the doctor, dude, if you don't say what I tell you to say, I'm going to get you out of here. And you know what? Just like you said, Big C, they need somebody independent to be like, you know what? You don't have any pull over me, brother. You're going to be in or you're going to be out. Because I'll tell you what, man, you've played the game. Charlton's played the game. I've played the game. And you know what? When you're in your 40s, 50s, whatever, it'll catch up to you. It'll jack with you. And you know what? It shouldn't be up to the players because just like you said, Stacey, they want to get in there. Yeah. They don't want to lose their place.
At all.
I've played with broken wrists, knee ligaments torn, broken foot, broken ribs in a game. I've been out there playing. And other players have played that way because you understand it's the next man up. And if you're too injured, you're not going to play anymore.
No, you're not.
And that gets to the next point we're going to talk about. We talk about trouble in Big Dallas.
Yeah.
And Jerry Jones. And we've talked about many times, Romo, they do have a better chance winning when they have Tony Romo under the helm.
Remember the name Johnny Manziel now.
Johnny Manziel may be down in Dallas. That's a big thing coming. But think about it also. When we talk about it, Glenn, the trouble in Big D, what are your thoughts on that topic?
Well, you know what? The biggest problem is the guy that owns the team, Jerry Jones. You know, and I wrote an article about him, and I told him in the article, I said, Jerry, if you listen to me, and if you step back, get one of your sons in there, hire Troy Aikman as a GM, suck up your pride, get rid of Romo, get somebody in there that is actually worth the money, and you will be holding that Lombardi trophy in 3 years. You know what? Bring back the people that you got rid of. Swallow your pride because what you're doing right now is not working. Period. I don't even know why they have a head coach.
For what?
What you just stated, Glenn, was perfect. Look at Denver when they brought in Elway. Pat Bowlen brought in Elway, his former quarterback.
Right.
Yep.
Made him GM and director of player personnel. Look at the moves that he has made with that organization. I think what you just said about using Troy Aikman as a GM would be a perfect scenario for Dallas.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. And Denver let go of the reins because, of course, Pat Bowlen was going through, this whole health issue, the Alzheimer's. So, of course, he had to let go of the reins. What sense would it make to have him control the team? His sons have had issues. And, again, what sense would it make to have him full control over the team when you can't make the decisions that cause the wins?
Yeah.
Well, you guys can say what you want to say about Jerry Jones, but I know we've been asking for $100 million for our movie, and I don't mind if Jerry Jones can use it as a tax deduction for us.
What's his phone number?
And speaking of $100 million,
maybe if you cleaned his glasses, he would give it to you.
I'll clean his glasses very much so.
Okay.
We'll even send them to Vegas. And then thinking about football again, talking about Vegas and people betting on teams to win, the Carolina Panthers, as we look at the top of the NFC, they're the leaders of the NFC South. They're undefeated. Now, they were only prevented by clinching the playoffs because Seattle, their win against the Steelers. But no one really wants to see Seattle in the playoffs. But I want to also go back to Carolina. We talked about earlier in the year, there's only been one undefeated team, start to finish. That's the 72 Dolphins. Carolina right now, they're in position because they're very strong. And the blowout win they had at Dallas for Thanksgiving Day, Glenn, that was impressive. Big C, what are your thoughts on Carolina right now? Just like New England, are they in jeopardy of dropping a game?
I don't see. They're a very balanced team. I mean, Cam Newton gets a lot of the headlines, but their defense has played lights out. And you could look at Dallas saying that they were not the same type of team, but their defense shut them down. They put Romo out of the game. They're a very solid team. And when you look at their offense being led by Cam Newton,
Yes.
and you look around the NFL at all these $100 million quarterbacks,
Yes.
he's one of them. But there's only $300 million quarterbacks in the NFL with winning records. That's Cam Newton.
Yes.
You spoke about Seattle, Russell Wilson,
Yes.
and the kid up in Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
All these other $100 million quarterbacks are losers. So when you talk about great quarterbacks in the NFL, shouldn't they be judged by wins based on the amount of money that they make?
Definitely.
Cam Newton should be at the top of the heap.
At the top of the heap, definitely.
You know, they got the Saints this week. You know, they're favored across the board by 7.
They still got a team?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know, man.
Mardi Gras on
search
Sunday.
continues.
Yeah, exactly. You know, they got the Falcons twice. I think the Giants and then the Buccaneers. I don't know if any of these teams will give him that much trouble because, Cam Newton is not a guy that's going to go into a game and be like, hey, guys, we're going to kind of take it easy. No, he's kind of, pedal to the metal all the way through, man. And this guy wants to win in the NFL. He won in college. He wants to win in the NFL in a bad way.
He's hungry.
Yes.
That big S that he puts across his chest that he has players even in the NBA emulating now.
Yes.
I mean, Cam Newton has just done it all. He's been quiet. I mean, he got criticized a couple of weeks ago by Trent Dilfer.
Yeah.
Why does he even have a job on ESPN?
I don't know.
But he came out to show his class the following week when they were handing balls to little kids in the stands.
Yes.
That's something Trent Dilfer never did. But Cam Newton stepped up big time. Said, hey, we're going to show you just how community involved we are. And they sought out the kids in the stands and personally handed them the football so it wouldn't be a fight over.
And see, that's a great point, too. And, Glenn, after this, I want to just say this. For Cam Newton, as an African-American quarterback, we hear so much about what Michael Vick was caught up in. And also last year, I know it's a different story, but when Beast Mode was not given the ball on the 1-yard line because really, if you think about it, Seattle did not want him to be the spokesperson for their team.
The NFL didn't want him.
Maybe the NFL too, but Pete Carroll did that the second time. The first time was Reggie Bush against Texas in the 2005 BCS game because they care more about the person's personal life than if it helps their team win. And as we talk about that, Cam Newton is the face of America.
Yeah.
He can be he has that look that says, I can be your next door neighbor. Yeah. I'm not someone that's threatening to mainstream media or mainstream culture. He's someone that should be, in my opinion, he should be put on a pedestal like a Tom Brady, like someone like an Aaron Rodgers, or even like a Brett Favre, in the NFL Network's doing a show on him tonight.
Yeah.
And there was a time when you even go back to the time that African-American quarterbacks were told, well, you're not cerebral enough to play the game. We don't hear that anymore. It never was true. But I would love to see this man being more of a spokesperson for the NFL. Now, you could talk about the history of the black quarterback, and people don't want to talk about it until the TV's off. But what are your thoughts on the image that he puts on the NFL being the only undefeated quarterback playing right now?
Well, you look at the image that he portrays. There's nothing negative in Cam Newton's background that people come out. They talk about this incident in college where they say his father demanded some money to play at certain universities. But he's been squeaky clean as an NFL player, and that's all that should matter. You look at Russell Wilson, he's gotten some backlash the past few weeks, and I don't understand what about his personal life. He goes out on the field. He dropped, 5 touchdowns last week on the Steelers?
Yes.
This is a guy going out performing. And as you talked about for years, they were saying that black quarterbacks were not cerebral enough. I'll take you to the first major starting quarterback in the NFL that was black. He played with the Denver Broncos back in 1963. Haven Moses.
Yep.
Not Haven Moses, Marlon Briscoe. He was a wide receiver. Frank Tripucka, you'll remember his son, Keller Tripucka, who played in the NBA. With the Mavericks, got hurt. This guy came in, Marlon Briscoe, went 9-1 as a starter.
Yes.
Never got another start again the following year. They put him back at receiver. You got a kid that's 9-1 at quarterback and you bench him. Yeah. James Harris with the Los Angeles Rams in 1976 led the NFL in passing.
Yes.
They decided to go another direction and bring in a decrepit Joe Namath.
Yep.
They trade Harris to San Diego to back up who? Dan Fouts, like he was ever going to sit on the bench.
Yeah.
So black quarterbacks have been shuttled to the back shelf for a long time, but now when we talk about them winning, you got Russell Wilson making $100 million, you got Cam Newton making $100 million. They're both winning quarterbacks. Michael Vick was the first NFL player in history to have 2 separate $100 million quarterback. So these guys have been Madison Avenue.
Yes.
They are marquee marketing tools. If you want to make your money, you put Cam Newton in your advertisement.
Well, see, I think that's incredible as we come down to about a minute and a half because, again, on most sports programs, you're not going to hear this. They're going to clap everybody on the hand. They're going to pat them on the back and tell them how great they are. But there's always an underlying message, subliminal or not, that people want to use when it comes to African-American leadership as a quarterback, whether it's golf or any other sport. And I would hope that people would pay attention to the success that this young man has had on the field. Also, Glenn, when you take your kid to a game, he has this whole team not just spiking the ball, but they actually take it and they give it to a young player.
Yeah, I love to see that.
How could you not like that? So, Stacey,
he's definitely earned the respect. My respect. He should have definitely reserved.
Well, everybody knows that he's the kind of player that's a household name, and I want to thank him for being great on the football field and also in the community. And every Wednesday, you can hear Epic Sports Radio worldwide as we are around the globe. Every Wednesday, 4 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Money 105.5.
If you're a homeowner and you're struggling with your mortgage payments, if your bank is giving you the runaround and you can't get a loan modification and attorneys are simply too expensive, contact NFA.
First, let's note that NFA has received a certification of registration from the California Attorney General's office and has a bond on file with the Secretary of State as required by law. NFA will inform homeowners of what their projected income and expenses and other info needs to be to have the best chance of receiving a loan mod. We will recommend qualifying income and expenses that will get them pre-qualified.
If your loan company is giving you the runaround and attorneys are simply too expensive, contact NFA at 916-896-5757. That is 916-896-5757.
X-Life Power Boards is revolutionizing the way you travel. Our boards are intelligent, innovative, and empowering. These boards feature Bluetooth speaker, 2 motors, Samsung long life battery. They are waterproof and dustproof, and they are faster than most models out there on the market. And you can buy a board for as low as $72 a month. So come join us at X-Life and get a board. Live free, ride free. XLPowerboards.com.
Half of the United States population follows sports in some form or fashion. Sports is a billion-dollar industry. If you're not advertising with a sports team, you are simply missing the boat. Boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. EpicNewsSports.com is your doorway to helping your customers follow sports. Whether it's pro, college, or prep sports, it is a great investment of your advertising dollar. With half of the country following sports, you can too by visiting EpicNewsSports.com.
Epic Sports Radio on Money 105.5. Reach out to the show via email, Glenn at EpicNewsSports.com. That's Glenn with 2 N's at EpicNewsSports.com.
Welcome back to the show. My name is Charlton Curry with Epic Sports Radio. We are worldwide, and if you're looking at advertising, you have to put your money behind a sports team. You know, people like wealthy people. When you think of Warren Buffett, Larry Ellison, or Phil Knight, even in Bill Gates, these guys are billionaires, even Jerry Jones, and they put their money behind sports teams, whether it's radio or TV. And if you want to advertise on Epic Sports Radio, you contact Glenn.
You can give me a call, text me, whatever, 916-420-0697, or you could email me at glenn@epicnewssports.com. Also want to thank Mattress by Appointment. Not only are they a sponsor of the show, but they have also given a donation to our to help the homeless and the Toys for Tots. I want to thank them for that. They're supporting us. They're supporting our community, so please go support them. Also want to thank Buns Ports Pub and Grub, 311 Judas Street. Again, every single Monday night, they are giving away a trip to Vegas. You'll enjoy 3 days, 2 nights at the Tropicana, and tonight is Wednesday, so you know what? They got Wing Wednesday. You know what? They got an awesome deal on wings, so go check those out and, you know, go support those guys as well.
And the food is good, and as we know, things that are good. Glenn, I believe it's college football.
A little bit, yeah. You know, we got the playoffs going, and you know what? What do you think of the playoffs? Do you think that it's good? Do you think that it works? And what are your thoughts?
Well, I'll tell you, we'll bring in Big C on this as well. College football, unlike when we had the BCS where the committees would choose the top 2 teams, But prior to that, we go back to, say, 1991 when the University of Washington went undefeated. The University of Miami went undefeated. Washington beat Michigan in the Rose Bowl. Miami shut out Nebraska in the Orange Bowl. They had a common opponent in Nebraska, but they both split the polls. Unfortunately, we did not have the teams play on the field. And Big C, I know we have an improvement in the system where now we're taking the top 4 teams. We're trying to make sure the Power 5 conferences are in there. But it seems so evident, especially if you're a college football coach, or Glenn, if you're an athlete, 4 games is not enough. We need to get real about college football and realize how much money is on the line. And if they include more teams and they regionalize these games, maybe a field of 8, 16 might be too many. But the top 4, they're leaving the other bowls ancillary, and they have empty stadiums or half-filled stadiums. Big C, what are your thoughts on how to improve this playoff format that we have for college football?
Well, I think within 2 years it's going to go to 4. It should end up at 16 teams. If you follow the pattern of 1AA, which is what the NCAA has set their format after, Division II football several years ago, back in about 1980 when they started the playoff system.
Yes.
And Glenn, your alma mater right now, there's been some talk about them might be in a little bit of trouble because they're talking about the quality of losses that teams had. And they're saying that Ohio State's loss to Michigan State was better than Oklahoma's loss to Texas, which that should not come into play.
Right. No, it shouldn't. It's ridiculous. And again, Charles and I were talking earlier today. We'll say Clemson gets in or whatever. I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about them. I'm really not. But if you got obscure teams, like we'll just say the basketball NCAA tournament, if Yale and Butler got in, how full do you think that arena is going to be? Really? If it wasn't Kentucky or someone like that, it's not. And they need to take a little bit of what basketball doing the football does, expand it a little bit more, and be smart about it, because the BCS, the rankings, it just doesn't work. It's a computer doing all this stuff, and I just don't understand. And I know we talked about a couple weeks ago about how someone could be 7-0 and be in 4th, and someone that's lost a game could be in 2nd. I don't understand that.
Well, we got Iowa, who is still undefeated.
Yeah.
Clemson this week is in a lot of trouble versus North Carolina. North Carolina has one of the hottest offenses right now. And I think North Carolina will win that game by 2 touchdowns, and Clemson will be knocked out. The tough game this week is Michigan State versus Iowa. What's your thoughts on that, Glenn?
You know what? I'm going for Michigan State. I really like the school. One of my favorite guys of all time, Magic Johnson. I know he played basketball there, but I really like the guy all around. Michigan State, they're power on both sides of the ball, and I know Iowa is undefeated, and I know but just like Charlton always says, any given day, man. It doesn't have to be any given Sunday, but any given day.
Saturday,
any given day. I'm going for Michigan State.
And you look at Michigan State last week against Ohio State, they won that game with their backup quarterback.
Yeah.
Cook did not play, so, do you stick with the backup quarterback or do you come back to Cook? The same situation like we have with the Peyton Manning. Do you go with the guy who got you to the championship game or you go with the guy who got you through the season?
Well, Mark D'Antonio is a great coach at Michigan State, and the quarterbacks, whether it's O'Connor or whether it's Cook, it really doesn't matter with them. They win a lot with their defense. But I'm going to say, in my opinion, I still think the best team is Ohio State. And I know people might say Oklahoma. They have an argument.
Boomer Sooner, baby.
People might say, well, it's Alabama. They have an argument. I know some people are jumping on Iowa. I think that'll end this weekend after the Big Ten championship game. But Ohio State, it reminds me of Archie Griffin and Woody Hayes. If you can run the football, you're going to win games. Everyone's big into the spread. Oregon, one of the best teams in the country running the spread the last several years, but they don't have a national championship when they run up against teams that can pound the ball the way Ohio State does. And I think Urban Meyer even admitted that he may have cost Ohio State another chance at a national championship. So running teams matter, teams that are physical matter, and Ohio State has that with Ezekiel Elliott, Big C.
Well, Derrick Henry in Alabama, don't turn your back on him. I mean, this kid has had 5 200-yard games this year.
Yes.
And, I mean, he's a horse. He's 6'3", 245 pounds. I haven't seen a defensive back all year that wants to tackle him. Everybody talked about Fournette at LSU.
Yes.
Henry's 6'4", finally everyone realized he was the class running back of the SEC. So that would be the ideal matchup. If you got to a championship game, Ezekiel Elliott versus Derrick Henry, the best two running backs in the country.
Yes.
I think every fan in America would love to see that.
No, you can't forget though. I'm going to bring up my alma mater here, dude. Boomer Sooner here. You cannot forget P. Ryan. He's a really good running back. You can't forget Mixon. They both had great weekends, and the quarterback Mayfield is kind of like their third running back. He's good on his feet as well, so you can't forget those guys either.
And he's been a Heisman candidate. People don't realize Mayfield started out at Texas Tech as a walk-on.
Yes, he did.
Got beat out as a sophomore, came to Oklahoma, has revitalized that offense. And when you talk about the two running backs, you have the best tandem of running backs in the country in Mixon and P. Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
So both of those guys went over 100 yards last week in the Bedlam game when they beat Oklahoma State.
That's right.
Marvelous games on the ground that Oklahoma had. And as you talked about, Mayfield added that third running back to the backfield.
Yeah.
Well, think about the outside looking in. And I know this is why I hate this Final Four, because even at the high school levels, which are in play all over the country, you take the top 16 or at least the top 8 and let them compete for a championship. Last week, USC, they rolled over UCLA for the Pac-12 South title. The Pac-12, Glenn, may be left out of this conversation, but Stanford, a team like Stanford, Big C, they played as tough a schedule as anyone. And then to beat a USC team in the Pac-12 championship, if they do that this Saturday, that's going to be at Levi Stadium in actually Santa Clara. They call it San Francisco, but it's Santa Clara.
Yeah.
Well, USC just brought in a new coach. They're going to keep him on board. But when I look at Stanford, I look at Hogan as a winning quarterback at Stanford. And then McCaffrey, he's getting some Heisman Trophy consideration as a tailback because he's a do-it-all type of running back for the Stanford Cardinal. What are your thoughts on Stanford? Even if they don't get in, Big C, they're being penalized for their schedule. But if they don't get in, what do you think of them?
When you talk about McCaffrey, he's the best player in the country. When you talk about a true Heisman
overall,
candidate,
yes.
He has the most all-purpose yards in the country this year. The last person to do that was Reggie Bush, to have the stats that McCaffrey has. And McCaffrey is going to be left out because he's playing on the West Coast. And penalizing Stanford, because on the West Coast, everybody's beating up each other.
Yes.
And if you look at the teams, Ohio State, Alabama, they all have 2 to 3 cupcakes on their schedule.
Yes.
They're playing Division I AA schools, giving these schools a paycheck. So they fluff their records up.
Yeah.
And so truly, if you back those out and put the quality of opponent in, then Stanford truly has to be considered. They lost that first game to Northwestern.
Yeah.
But so did Ohio State last year when they lost to Virginia Tech in their opening game.
Yes.
And they said that early season loss didn't mean anything. You got to look at Stanford. They knocked off Notre Dame.
Thank you for listening to Epic Sports Radio every Wednesday worldwide, around the globe on Money 105.5. And if you want more information on advertising,
you can give me a call at 916-420-0697, or you could email me at glenn@epicnewssports.com. I also want to mention we are doing a sports movie next year, and we are looking for current athletes, ex-athletes that want to get involved. You could also email me or call me, and we'll discuss the specifics on that. And again, we are looking for people to kind of partner with us within this movie. And when you partner with us, you're giving your donation, if you will. But that's not just a donation. You're partnering with us to do this movie. And you know what? It's going to be a great thing. We will talk more as the weeks go on, more about the movie.
Right.
And we will see you guys next week. Thank you, France, for listening. Thank you, Japan, Germany, Canada, all across the United States. We will see you guys next Wednesday at 4 p.m.
And
Thank you for listening.
If you're out there looking for a way to advertise your business, check out Epic Sports Radio. As Glenn mentioned, we are worldwide, and you can hear us every Wednesday, 4 o'clock p.m. on Money 105, owned by Salem Media Group. We love talking about sports, and you can too on Money 105.5.
Thanks, guys.